Okay. Well, good evening, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing well. It is an interesting day,
It
and I'm
is.
excited about what we're going to be talking about today. How are you?
I am doing actually really well.
Mhm.
And, for everyone just tuning in, I am Rhonda Chaplin, CEO of Favorite Together and also Break Free Strategies. And with me today is Brandon Blue, who oversees all of the learning and development for Favorite Together. And we're just bringing you into our conversation that we've been having for the past couple of weeks. And that is around AI, artificial intelligence, and
Yeah.
whether or not it's a tool or if it's being used as the authority. And many of you know my background is human resources, while Brandon, he'll bring in an interesting perspective from the educational realm.
Yeah.
I was with clients for traveling on site to several different markets, and Brandon, I'll let you kind of join in on the conversation, but I've noticed how AI is showing up in the business sphere of influence, whether it's from candidates coming on site for interviews, and there you can tell it's all generated
hmm
from AI because there's nothing of substance in the conversation and what they're bringing to the table. But what have you found in the education mountain?
I remember we talked little briefly about this, and I mentioned there are two schools of thought in the educational field about definitely in higher education about AI. You have one from a student's perspective where it's like, I'm using this as a resource, right? As a means to an end, and then you have one from the interest of the faculty member, the instructor, and it's like, okay, are you learning though? Or have this become a crutch? And has this become a measure by which we are now using to answer questions instead of using your own knowledge, or instead of taking the time to study? Oh, I can just easily put this into AI. And what we find out, in definitely when we get to the English portion of scholastic learning and learning how to write papers and do research, we're finding out more students now have the accessibility to AI via Google. You can get on Bing, you can get on Mac Google, and you can say, "Hey, Chat GPT, can you write me a 5 paragraph essay on the study of anthropology?"
Mhm.
And it will, I mean, in a millisecond, pull information and say, "Hey, here's a 5 paragraph page essay on anthropology." And we're like, "Wait a minute, what?" And it's pulling resource. I mean, it's pull. And the thing about AI, it's pulling from multiple sources. And so you're getting all this information, and we're like, "We didn't even cover this in class.
Mhm.
We didn't even go over this."
Mhm.
Right. And this is something that we haven't even touched on. So where are you getting this information from? It's not in your textbook. Right.
Mhm.
And so the instructors, we recently had a conversation, our Department of Instruction, and it's like, what are we going to do? This is something that we didn't necessarily have to worry about
Yeah.
previously
Uh-huh.
because it wasn't accessible to everyone. Now the accessibility is just almost worldwide, to just at your fingertips. All you need is a cellular device, a computer, internet, and you can get on and you can begin to engage with this artificial intelligence
Mhm.
and start to lose yourself
Yes.
if you're not careful.
And now there's even, I sometimes will just, for mindless entertainment, I'll scroll through social
Mhm.
media. And now there are even educators and influencers, right? For whatever sphere you're in, they will give you the correct prompts to put
Mhm.
in. So there are actually former teachers that are saying, hey, put this prompt into ChatGPT or any AI tool if you're looking for this subject. And
Mhm.
I think that that's the reason why we started embarking down this path around, is it being used as a tool or the authority?
Mhm.
Because it's it's almost as if people don't have to think anymore.
Why would I have to think? Why should I think when I can, go to this easy microwavable resource
Mhm.
that's give it to me quick, give it to me fast. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about how to write a proposal. I don't
Mhm.
have to think about how to formulate my ideas in
Mhm.
a manner in which conveys what I want it to convey. I can just put in one sentence, not even a full sentence, just,
Mhm.
hey, can you write me this?
Yes.
And what I think is also what when you think about the question, can this be used as a tool or is it being used as an authority? When we start to look at something as an authority, we're looking at something that has the power to control and to influence an entire system, an
Mhm.
entire ecosystem, an entire environment. And so when you start to look at AI as an authority, you have to realize, is this thing trustworthy? Because
Exactly.
what we started to find out is that not only is this information coming from different sources, there's no vetting of sources.
Mhm.
So you're getting information, and we and recently had a student, you're getting information that is incorrect. And you're wondering, oh, but and now you don't want to tell on yourself where you got
Right.
it from,
Yeah.
right? But it's a dialogue now of you're using this, but you don't know how to vet it properly
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
know that this information that is just given you is wrong.
Exactly. Yep. And in the business world, look, in my profession, is it helpful as a tool to be able to ensure that you're using correct grammar in your
Mm,
emails? If you need to bring greater context to a specific subject matter, I'm absolutely for it. I think that
mm,
that is wonderful. But where I kind of draw that line is when someone is presenting AI work
mm,
and as you mentioned, without vetting it, because it is so plain. It's not going into the meat to show that you know what you're talking about. It is just very surface level.
mhm,
And I'm not going to name the church that I went to, I visited. But somehow we find ourselves in situations. But I was shocked when I overheard a conversation in the hallway where someone said, "Hey, I need you to go up and pray." And they said, "Wait a minute, let me just get some scriptures." And they put it into ChatGPT.
mhm,
I'm like, oh my goodness, is this now where it's even infiltrating the church, where it's no longer revelation unless you consider AI to be the revelatory source. And I'm not trying to be controversial, but
mhm,
this is impacting all of the mountains. And I'm not saying AI is bad, but when it's running the mountains in essence, at what point can we say, what do we need to do? Because it's not going anywhere, right?
mhm.
And it is, potentially going to cause some job displacement. But something that you said, it's really around how can we just ensure that as a people, as a body of believers, that we can kind of not allow that to be the determining source, or can we?
Mm. And and that's the question that every individual in every mountain is having at this moment.
Mhm.
Because, if you do your research, AI, artificial intelligence, has been around for some time. It
Mhm.
was limited, right, in what it could do.
Mhm.
And there was a recent psychologist that did a study to show just like how far advanced AI has become.
Mhm.
And the study was talking about comparing it to the human mind. And I
Yes.
thought this was so interesting because when you really think about AI, so many people put its confidence in that, oh, it can give me facts that I don't have to think about. It can do things that I don't have to do. But you start to lose the God-given identity that we have as human beings.
Mhm.
We are the only creatures on this entire planet that has the level of consciousness that we have. And I thought it was I saw a video, and this guy was saying, he was like, we as human beings are the only people that relay messages through stories. I mean, it brings me to the thought about like Jesus, right? He brought parables, stories to relate to people. You don't see a dog going, hey, let me tell you let me tell you a story about a human I met once, right? To convey a message. You don't see that. But what AI misses, which I think we have to be careful of, it misses that interpersonal relationship building.
Yes.
How can I communicate to an audience? Yes, I can pull information from different sources. I can pull the facts. But when I'm standing there and I have a presentation that's completely built by AI, and I don't really, I just didn't even give any thought to this. I just say, hey, AI, create this presentation for me. When it's time for me to present this information, how can I relay this information that connects with my audience, that connects with the people that I'm talking to? Are there stories that I can provide? Like, we start to miss out on that human experience. And that's the danger. And also, when you brought up the thing about the church, if I have to AI scriptures, then the scripture is not in me. Exactly. I'm already defiant of the word itself, right? Because the word should abide in me, not in AI. Because here's the thing. I can go on the internet right now and put up random scriptures, and I can put up random verses that have no meaning, that have no understanding. And I can say, this is what the scripture means just based off of my head knowledge.
Yes.
Without even understanding the word.
Yes.
And you don't know where this information is coming from. And if we rely so much on this as an authority, not as a tool, because again, we can use, I Google certain things. We can use it, right? It's there for a reason, but it's never meant to be the precedence. It's never meant to be the pinnacle of our understanding to say, you know what? I can just AI everything.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. The emotion, and it's not even the emotion, because I don't like to, do things out of emotions, right? But it was the atmosphere wasn't able to shift because I felt, for lack of a better, very
robotic.
There was no intimate, you could not feel them in that prayer. It was almost as if, not that they were reading verbatim, but that's what it felt, that's what it sounded like. And then when someone else went up, now you felt that invitation because it was authentic. And I think that's the part that people have to really be careful of, because even when you're showing up for interviews, when you're showing up for, like you said, presentations, whatever it is that you're using, or that you're assigned to, don't forget that human connectivity. Don't forget the real purpose of why you're there. And I think that that is my biggest pet peeve around what's happening within the Seven Mountains as it relates to AI, and forgetting that this was created to be a tool, not for us to eliminate or eradicate thinking, right? Because we're already, I don't know about you, Brandy, but what I'm starting to see is that everyone is becoming too intellectual. And wanting to debate things based off of information, but they don't have the complete history. They don't have the deeper context, the deeper meaning, because they're just plugging in specific keywords or specific prompts, and they're not asking for the historical value of what it is that they're trying to understand, they're trying to speak on. And it's just annoying.
I mean, it sounds, it really does sound inhumane. It's very cut and dry. I mean, because I can tell when someone has used AI to write a presentation. And unfortunately, I sat in an interview in which that was done. And the number one marker that they did not pay attention to was the pictures. Because, when you generate pictures from AI, you have to be careful because they can be distorted. And so the pictures were starting, we were sitting at the panel, because it's a panel interview. We're like, did you see that pic? I don't think that, and it was like, you could start to kind of see the trademarks of AI.
Yes.
And you could tell when we started to kind of be like, all right, give us something more. It was,
yes.
Because all you had rehearsed was this AI presented presentation. You didn't really go into depth with what you wanted to convey. And so when you're just spitting facts but no understanding, then when it's time for there to be a release or a confirmation of your comprehension, now it's like, oh man, I really don't know how to answer these questions. And so there's this emptiness, there's this void, and we're like, I mean, yeah, your presentation, quote unquote, was good, but when it came down to the questioning, we were missing you. Like, because, and I think what we have to be careful of is too, don't let AI take your purpose.
Yes.
When you get in a position and you're like, hey, look at me because this is who I am, but it's automated. It's like a voicemail. I pick up, I don't want to talk to the voicemail. I want to talk to you.
Yes.
I want to have dialogue with you, not the automated voice message. And so when you're just spitting facts like, oh, and it's like, no, what do you, I know the job. I work the job. I've been at the job, right? I want to know, what can you offer that's different? Because let's be honest, AI can give you great ideas, but AI cannot give you specific, purposeful, intentional, witty inventions to create solutions to problems that are specific to the environment. So when we ask questions like, okay, here's a scenario problem. Can you tell me how to solve that? You in an interview, you can't just, well, give me 1 second. Let me look this up real quick.
And that's exactly what's happening. And I liked how you said it, because it was designed to be a tool, right? And it can get you from point A to Z, but it will skip the context of the specific deliverables in the middle. And the thing is that you have to remember that, especially during an interview, the panel, they know what attributes they're looking for. You as a candidate do not. So the thing is that you can have all the facts in the world. You can plug in the job duties that you see on Indeed or LinkedIn into AI, and it will spit out, oh, you should focus on this. You should present this. You should do this. But it's not going to tell you how to show up if one of the attributes that the employer is looking for is someone who's emotionally intelligent. If one of the attributes is someone who's intuitive or forward thinking or respectful, right? They're trying to listen out for, how will you show up in the midst of different case studies or different scenarios. AI can't help you with that. Even if you said, excuse me for a moment, and you went to the restroom and plugged in the question and came back, it still would not have you showing up in those 4 attributes that I just mentioned. And that's the reason why I'm like, we have to start having these conversations, because I'm not hearing it in the spaces that I'm going in. I'm not hearing it from the pulpit. I'm not hearing it, yes, behind closed doors, leadership meeting, but it's time to really start having the conversations outward. So that way people understand that, you know what, let's kind of remove that fear of, oh, AI is going to replace my job. Computers, not just AI, right? But we've seen that. We've been on that, right? How many times have you gone into, I don't know, any store that you shop in, and you no longer are greeted by a cashier? You're greeted by a machine, right? So computers have always kind of taken over some staffed positions. I'm from New York originally. You can't really find toll people anymore. It's now what? Easy Pass.
Yep.
So we've been on that. But something you said, AI, and even like, you can have it create a picture, and it has evolved. I mean, I remember when it first started out with the graphics, the faces were distorted, the hands, sometimes you saw it with 7 fingers in one hand. But it's come a long way, right? So even when it comes to media, graphic designers, when it comes to arts and entertainment, it can spit out a lot of the scripts, a lot of the visuals. What are your thoughts when it comes to kind of AI really taking over some of the mountains?
Well, to the point about media, I think the thing is it's learning because one of the things that I love movies. I love fantasy movies.
Yeah.
And you can't really get the fantasy without the AI. I mean, let's be honest.
Mm.
It would cost so much to try to do that real life and build it. So a lot of them use CGI. They use artificial intelligence to create these magical moments. But
Mhm.
you can tell the movies that are just here's just CGI, no purpose, no intention. And you can tell those movies and those shows that have that fantasy component. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is so real. This is
Wow.
so in like this just brings you into it. Because, and one thing that I noticed, definitely I like to research a lot of things. And so one thing I noticed that a lot of people in media are now starting to do, they're starting to build programs and scholastic teaching, college level classes on how to use AI programming to
Mhm.
create realism,
Mhm.
right? So new styles of coursework are coming out. And I think that when you are learning, when you're not just using it haphazardly and just throwing it out there to just be a bypass, but honestly learning the tool and how to use the tool appropriately, when to use the tool. Because and I think about this in a media mountain, there's a time when and good directors and good producers know this. There's a time when there needs to be a human to human
Yes.
interaction to convey something, right? I watched a movie recently. I'm not going to mention the movie because I don't want to, get none out there. But I watched a movie recently, and it's a pretty well-known movie, and it had a lot of reviews. And
Mhm.
one of the reviews talked about the CGI and how it just disconnected the fantasy from reality. It couldn't bring people in.
Wow.
And so it is a popular movie. It just came out. It's by one of the monopolies. I'm not gonna mention names. But it really people were just like, "Ah, I was hoping it would, and it just didn't. It just
Mhm.
and it didn't do well in the box office
Mm.
because of that component. People were missing. We needed this type of interaction to
Mhm.
connect. Because again, as a human story, as a human person, we like to convey messages through stories. When
Yes.
you start to put robots and
Mhm.
automated messages in that, it kind of defeats, like we can't connect to it.
Yeah.
And so so I think the biggest thing with AI in all mountains is learning how to use it. Get an education, right? And
Yes.
we're
And
even
there
having
are tons of places that are offering actually AI in your specific field.
mm-hmm,
Within our Favorite Together community, we're going to be sharing those things. But I think that that is the biggest piece that people are missing. They're going on social media and trying to learn what works for someone else. But if you're not in the same exact field, if you don't have that same mantle, if you don't have that same purpose, you're going to try to mirror what someone else has done and you will not be successful.
mm-hmm,
The best thing, because I'm even doing it, I am taking a course because I want to understand how to maintain AI as a tool, not my authority, but how to utilize it properly, not for today. I'm always looking at 5 years from now because it is evolving. There's even,
mm-hmm,
another tool that's coming out that is dwarfing ChatGPT. We have to learn how to utilize AI in its proper context, understand the terminology, understand what it is being used for, not just for today, but down the road in the future, and where can we remain in the authority? So
mm-hmm.
that way, this tool does not try to control all aspects of our lives and how we think, how
Mm-hmm.
we act, and how we respond.
Correct. And I think when you think about the thinking component, when we start to allow because essentially you're allowing other people to think for you. Because
Yeah.
again, AI cannot think of itself.
Mhm.
It is input. And
Mhm.
when you learn, because we have to do professional development, right? Either in the education system about AI. Like we have to learn this. We have to create new policies. And that was the conversation. we have to create policies now
Yep.
that didn't exist before
Mhm.
because we have to now incorporate AI in these policies.
Yep.
And we're having a conversation about using AI, and we're having to learn about this. And one thing that I think is so impactful in the discovery of AI and learning about it is that it's input based. Everything is inputted, meaning it doesn't conjure up this information of itself like we do, right? Like it has to be put in to the system, and it searches all of these files. And what you have to be aware of, you're not thinking for yourself. You're allowing someone else to think for you. Someone else's ideas, someone else's mind, someone else's opinion. So when I go in there, and I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to go there because I notice a lot of people do this. When I want to go on AI and I want to look up, hey, can you tell me the current climate of the political arena today? AI is going to give me a whole, now it's going to try to be as neutral as possible. But based off of the sources that it pulls from, it's going to give me news clippings. It's going to give me all of this. And all of that, we all know, if you don't know, is bias, right? So you're going to have all these different biases pulling in. It can create confusion in you.
Exactly.
And now you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to, that's not proper. That's not proper research.
Right. And the context of what you're inputting will determine, because you can just miss one word.
One word.
That will change the context of the response, and it will go in a direction where now you're spiraling like, I didn't know this. But your next question is not, I guarantee you, the next question is not going to be an AI. Where did you compile? What sources did you utilize to compile your information? You're just now spiraling because of what spit out at you.
And that information, and you're taking that information in, and you're not vetting it. You're not wise enough to look at it and go, let me actually see where this information comes. You take it face value. And I think that's the danger. When we start to just take it face value, then now we're using it as an authority in our personal lives to make decisions for us. Well, this is how I should believe, or this is how, because someone was like, I asked a question, and it was a personal question. Like, there was no need to AI this, but it was a personal question. And it's, well, let me look it up real quick. Let me chat GPT this real quick. And you chat GPT, how are you going to chat GPT a faith question?
Oh, they're doing it.
This is faith. This is personal. So now AI has to believe God for you, or believe whatever, believe whatever religion you so-called believe. Because if you have to look up what you so-called believe, then the question is, do you really believe it? What has taken authority in your life? What has taken precedence and control that you now have to go, well, this is what I saw before, and now I think this is true. So now I have to keep going back to this source, because now you've made this your source.
And it now has a record, because I don't know if you saw this latest trend on social media where they'll put in, based on our interactions, what is it like talking to me? What is it like for a person to talk to me? And then they're posting it like, oh my goodness, this is so right. And then I asked it to create, what is the image like? And then that goes up. And I'm like, wow, you need AI to tell people what it's like to talk to you? You can't tell someone what it's like to talk to me? We
can't have a dialogue and discuss what is, I can tell you the truth. Like, I can tell you how it feels to talk to you, but then it goes to, how does AI know?
Because you're using it so often that it's keeping a record of all the conversations. And then what happens? The output is going to be one of, I'm designing who you are. This is now who you've become. And now I want you to utilize this as the source. So you're forgetting how you were created, who you were created to be, but now it's, oh, I'm putting a language to our interaction of who I know you to be. And it's like, when were we created to allow a machine to do that? And look, I want to be clear because I don't want people to think that we're bashing. We're not. We're just saying to learn how to use it appropriately and then employ some critical thinking skills, right? Knowing what are the right questions that you should ask and who should you ask it to. I love your the example you just gave, because I think that the go-to has become, oh, let me just ask AI versus who is the right person, not thing. Who's the right person that I should first connect with to get this question answered, especially when it comes to faith. I really don't think that, and we saw this over the last decade, where things have gone from a book to apps, right? And if you're not careful, you don't realize that some things have been intentionally deleted from the app. So this is no different when it comes to faith. I know that sometimes we can have a brain freeze where it's like, where's that scripture? What's the address of that scripture, right? I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. We've been Googling, like, here's the scripture, where's the address? But when you're utilizing these tools to determine what you should be ministering on, what you should be praying on, based off of a topic, that kind of draws the line a little bit.
Because then it goes to, and I was just thinking about this, then it goes to, when have we begin to use AI to be like a tarot card? There's, we're in this new age thing, right? And this is going a little bit of a different conversation, but we're in this new age thing where now it's like I have to be reliant on something material to tell me who I am, how I act, how I behave. And so we've taken that same energy and we've applied it to artificial intelligence. Tell me how to talk to someone. I've seen, tell me how to answer this question. Tell me how to, and I've seen something recently where it's, if you want dating advice, just ask ChatGPT.
Oh, wow.
A computer has to teach you how to date. And they were giving prompts, like, I had a conversation, and it was a young lady. I can't remember if it was on Facebook or TikTok. And so she was like, I asked ChatGPT how to engage with this person on a dating app, and they gave me this, and it was so accurate. It was so good. It was so like me. And I'm like, you are really ascribing your personality to a computer, something that doesn't exist. A computer is not living. It's not alive, right? It has no life force. It has no way of communicating with you on a conscious level. It's not conscious. And you are putting your life, your romantic life, in the hands of so if it tells you something that you don't necessarily believe in, now it's like, oh, well, I guess AI knows better. So let me say this, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. We have to be, I think it's a good tool to use, but when we start to use it to direct our lives, to direct our conversations, when have we forgotten to be human?
And that's where it's, whether it's friendly conversation, whether it's in romantic conversations, I've gotten to a point where it's utilizing all modalities of communication. No, I'm not going to have a dialogue with you via email, text. Pick up the phone and let's have a conversation. This is where now more than ever, I need to know, who am I speaking
to?
Who am I dealing with? Because I'm not going to have an AI designed conversation when because you know what, there's only so much that you can really fake. Having a belly-to-belly conversation, having a live like this, jumping on and just having a conversation. Everybody wants to do what? Hide behind videos, recording. That's why, yes, do I do recorded videos? Absolutely. But there's nothing like doing this, because I would not be able to quickly type in AI, oh, what do I say next?
If it's not in you, it's not going to come out of you in a live conversation. We we have to learn now how to detect, and then again, this goes with policy, how to detect videos that have been uploaded using AI. Students now can send their voice recording into an AI computer system programming, create a video about a topic in their voice, looks like them, sounds like them, and submit it as an assignment.
Wow.
And it's like, how do we judge to know whether or not, and these are the conversations we're having, because it's like, as you said, as the years progress, it's going to get progressive, and it's going to get progressive, and it's going to get more intensive. And if you don't learn how to use AI, if you don't learn how to navigate it and how to discern, then things like that they call them deep fakes.
Yes.
And it's dangerous because it's like, how do I know? That's why I don't even answer spam calls anymore, because there's a thing now where they will record your voice and upload it to an AI generated program. And then they will they will call your bank, they will call this, and they'll use your voice recording to get into your, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Well, that was in a movie I saw recently. And again, I don't want any copyright issues, so I won't name the name of it. But literally, they lined up a lot of high-profile folks in a room, and they had them reading from cue cards, and it was The Fox in the Hole. It was just anything. And they were able just to upload their sound, right, into a computer and change the whole. And they did that to do what? Take down. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? And I saw that movie maybe 2 weeks ago. Anytime I see a movie, I'm like, yeah, they didn't come out with this creatively. It's like, yeah,
it's here.
That's happening. So to your point, it's like, you know what? If there's a no name on a number, I won't answer it. Leave a voice message. I'll call you back if I know you. But all these spam, I will not pick up at all, because like you said, it's evolving. So this is where we are. This is where we are today. But who knows the evolution of where it's about to go to. And I would also say, please don't invest your money to take a course in AI to learn more about it, to just circumvent the system, to figure out how can I cheat the system. Really take the course. Number one, to help. I know I'm doing it not just to help myself, but to teach others correctly. I don't want to give out misinformation, nor do I want to utilize these tools in an incorrect manner. So I'm taking these courses so I can actually learn where's the future of humanness as it relates to AI. I don't want to see any more people struggling financially because they've been displaced out of their job. So I want to understand, as humans, how can we pioneer? How can we be pioneers of adjusting to AI, because it's not going anywhere, but where we can actually still make some smart decisions without losing our human capacity, and allowing AI become the authority.
And to the point of just the humanitarianism and the humanness, I think when you think about job security, that is what's going to keep your job.
Yeah.
Again, I'm majored in psychology. Psychology is my thing, so I'm gonna revert back. There's a study, and I think the title is Computer versus Human, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a study, and they are debating. There's a debate whether or not a computer can replace a human. And when you think about this in terms of job security, the fact that there's a debate about it means that there is some form of action that's getting ready to take place, or that is taking place. And we already know that computers are taking, I mean, you think about it, my grandfather hates going to Walmart simply because he wants somebody to ring him up. And that's just the thing. Like, he's like, I don't want this machine. And how often can you now find someone with the capabilities to ring you up. If they're there to make sure the machine doesn't break.
Yep. I
They
went to
will
Home
not.
Depot and
Mhm.
the woman was like, well, you don't have to stand on this long line. There's no line or waiting at the, and I was like, I don't feel like doing your job today.
Yeah,
I just didn't. I didn't feel like
because if you're gonna be there, at least ring me up, you know.
exactly.
But they're not even. The training has changed.
Mhm.
It's more training on how to resolve
Mhm.
computer issues
Yeah.
than to actually work the register. And so, we're getting into this like, oh my goodness, this debate of computer versus humanity. Will computers take over the world? I think to a certain degree we will use computers, but as long as we're alive,
Yeah.
human beings need
Mhm.
human beings. And that need to socialize and communicate with like-minded species
Mhm.
is going to be there. So I think when you think about job security,
Mhm.
you have to come to the table. Because
Mhm.
if all you can show me is that a computer can do this job, then I'm just
Mhm.
gonna let a computer do the job.
That is the exact point that I wanted to end with, right? Because you said it, job security can, AI cannot take the job security of humanness, right?
Mm,
So that means that we have to remember how to communicate effectively and more importantly, just how to serve people.
mhm,
Customer service, client engagement, how to just be nice.
mhm,
If you're, especially if you're working in the service industry, there is no computer that can ever take away from someone who is pleasant,
mhm,
who's efficient, who is just kind, and who is able to solve a problem.
mhm.
That's where I find is the future of job security, business success. It is that likability that will never be able to be replaced by a computer. Yes, a computer can bring efficiency. Yes, it can put systems in order, but it cannot take away from just being around a group of people or a person
Mhm.
that just has a really good heart. And if we can understand that and understand that whether you're in business or whether you're employed, start by being kind to
Yes,
your
compassion.
fellow man or woman.
Mhm. Compassion, I think, is because I did a paper, I did a research paper on this very topic about what's the difference between humanity
Mhm.
and computer. And the biggest thing was consciousness and compassion. Two
Mhm.
things that I found: consciousness and compassion. A computer cannot be compassionate. I don't
Mhm.
care how much information it gives you. And I saw this recently. My wife and I, we went out to downtown. We live in Columbus, Georgia. We went out downtown. We was having a good time, and just to look and see the interactions between the people,
Yes.
right? And to when we went to the restaurant, and the first thing the guy when we went to the restaurant, he looked at me. He didn't know me from Adam or Eve, and he was so good at his job. I thought I was supposed to know him. And he was like, "Oh my goodness." He was like, "Oh man, I've been texting you." I was like, "You have? Do I know you?" I was like, he said, "I've been texting you. You finally decided to show up." I was like, and Lauren was looking at me like, "Do you know him?" And I was like, "No." But that interaction, I mean, set the tone from the time that we got in there to the time that we left. He was like, "Oh my goodness, thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming." And I'm like, "Dude, we would act like we knew each other,
Right.
but we don't know. I don't know you. I don't even know your name. To this day, I never got his name." And that interaction, like you can't get that from a computer system. If it was a robot that was up there, like, "Hey, man, take your order," and taking me to my seat, I wouldn't have been able to get that interaction and have that lasting, memorable moment.
Yes, yeah, and that's the one thing that I constantly remind myself and I remind others that, when computers first came on the scene, it was something that was new, right?
Mhm.
AI has been on the scene and it's going to keep evolving, but it cannot control who we are, who we were created to be.
Mhm.
And if we just understand how to continually to just still engage in conversation, and like you said, I love that he just made you feel like you knew him for years. And can
Mhm.
you imagine if every interaction with every single person made us to feel that way?
Mhm.
AI, no matter how you use it, no matter how many times you're on it, how much it may say that this is what it's like to talk to you, it
Mhm.
cannot ever make you feel like that gentleman did for you and your wife. It,
Mhm.
it cannot happen. So it's all about, perspective and how we continue to utilize AI. And again, AI is a tool, but we just wanted to kind of have this conversation around how to ensure that it doesn't become the authority
Yeah.
of our lives and the authority in the mountain that you were called to um, really have authority and to dominate
Mhm.
and to work and enjoy life and collaborate and partner with others.
Yeah.
So that balance, having that balance of humanness, socializing with people, partnering with them, but then utilizing tools as needed to get the
The
job done.
Yes. And being, realizing we were created to govern.
Yes.
We were created.
Mhm.
And no matter, what you believe, how you have to show up every day.
Yes.
The computer can go out any moment.
Mhm.
Technology can fail at any given second. But
Mhm.
you have to show up with your mind, with your awareness,
Mhm.
and know that you bring something to the table. I'm not scared of a computer taking my job. First of all, a computer can't do me. A computer can never be me,
Right.
right? My personality, and I had a conversation today, and I thought this was so profound. I had a conversation today, and it was just like, oh my goodness, Brandon, you're here. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, oh, okay. And I didn't know I had been gone, but yeah, but it's like you're here. I haven't seen you in a while. You're here, and to
Yeah.
hear those words, I'm so glad you are here,
Yeah.
right? That's it. Can you ask yourself that question?
Mhm.
Are you glad that you are here? Is someone that you work with, is your mountain
Mhm.
applauding your presence? Is your mountain standing up and going, yes, the governor has come in, the
Yes.
authority has come in? Or are we reliant on
Mhm.
tools to
And when
govern
you
until?
start to hear those words,
Mm-hmm.
I know I was out of pocket for 3 weeks. And like you said, hearing today where I had to travel to, and they're like, when are you coming back?
Mm-hmm.
That's when we know that, you know what? We don't have to worry about job security. We don't have to worry about our businesses failing because it's not AI that they wanted. They wanted me back
Mm-hmm.
because I brought something. I
Mm-hmm.
brought something that they needed. I brought something that solved problems that not once did they have to say, let me check AI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that you're absolutely right. We don't have to fear it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we do have to get an understanding.
Stand. Mm-hmm.
And once we have that understanding, now when we come together, we don't have to rely on a tool, but we can rely on what's in us first
Mm-hmm.
and foremost. First and foremost, to do what? To just really come together and just see an evolution, to see all of our dreams, all of our goals, all of our objectives come to life.
Right.
And no matter what, a computer cannot do that for us. It does not yield enough power to
Mm-hmm.
do that, what we can do individually and collectively.
Correct.
So that's all we have for you today. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll be back. And if you want to just join in on the conversation live, we welcome that. We love having engaging conversations. So, you can comment or just go on to favoritetogether.com, reach out to us, and we'll be certain to invite you to be a part of the conversation. So, Brandon, thank you again. Enjoyed this conversation. And to everyone, please like, subscribe to our channel so that way you'll be notified when we come on next for another conversation. Don't know what the topic will be, but give us some ideas and we'll be certain to join you and to enlighten you in the
Yes.
next conversation.